Hello everybody, welcome to this week's midweek thought for the day. We're going to start with a Bible reading. It's from Mark chapter 3 and it's beginning at verse 20 of chapter 3. Then Jesus entered a house, and again a crowd gathered, so that he and his disciples were not even able to eat. When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, for they said, "He is out of his mind." And the teachers of the law who came down from Jerusalem said, "He is possessed by Beelzebul. By the prince of demons he is driving out demons." So Jesus called them over to him and began to speak in parables. "How can Satan drive out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. If a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan opposes himself and is divided, he cannot stand. His end has come. In fact, no one can enter a strong man's house without first tying him up. Then he can plunder the strong man's house. Truly, I tell you, people can be forgiven all their sins and every slander that they utter, but whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven. They are guilty of an eternal sin." He said this because they were saying he has an impure spirit. Then Jesus' mother arrived and brothers arrived. Standing outside, they sent someone in to call him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, "Your mother and brothers are outside looking for you." "Who are my mother and my brothers?" he asked. Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother." So this week we're thinking about Jesus' time in Galilee, what he was doing. So some of this time John was in prison. Jesus was healing people, Jesus was teaching, Jesus was kind of raising people from the dead, so like the widow of Nain's son. So Jesus was doing all these miracles, and in amongst those miracle stories and the parables, there's quite a lot about parables, and there's even a mini parable in the middle of this passage. But they have this kind of extraordinary situation which arises when Jesus is in this house teaching and trying to eat. And I wanted to think about that this week because Nick Page in The Wrong Messiah talks about kind of the idea of the insult that Jesus is placing on his family and how difficult that would have been. But it's Mental Health Awareness Week this week, and I think this is really an interesting passage to have this week because throughout millennia, the people who are called in to deal with people who have suspected really poor mental health are the people's family. And so really the family have been told Jesus is really delusional. You know, we think there's something wrong with Jesus, you need to come and sort him out. And so they come. Now, it was said of Lord Byron that he was the first person who was mad, bad and dangerous to know. But really that's the accusation that's being levelled against Jesus in this passage, that he is unwell, he's unstable, he's out of his mind, that he is working in cahoots with the devil, so mad, bad. And I guess the only one of those which proves really to be true is that it was dangerous, and still in some places is dangerous, to be Jesus's friend. But Jesus, when he says to the people around him, when he kind of doesn't see his family immediately, he says, "No, you people who are here, you are the people who have to decide if I am out of my mind or not. If I am that unwell, you have to decide, not my mother and my brothers outside. You have to decide. That's why you are my mother and my brothers and my family. You have to decide." So C.S. Lewis once said that Jesus, if you read his claims, you have to come to a conclusion whether he's mad, whether he's bad, or whether he is in fact God. And that we have this little passage which kind of really brings this into sharp focus. So Jesus is saying to people, well, you are having to make this decision. Yes, I've said to you that I am God's son. I am all those things to do with God that he claims that he was making. You need to decide whether I'm actually unwell and delusional and making those claims, or whether I'm evil and manipulating you, or whether I am actually telling you the truth. And there is a big kingdom event going on here, and there is something very real and true about the incarnation. So those are all the things which are brought into focus in this passage that the family had been sent for. You know, we think Jesus is out of his mind. Come and sort him out. When Jesus says to everybody else, no, you have to make your decision. This isn't my family's decision. You have to make your decision about what's going on here, about whether I really am out of my mind. And so those are the questions, I guess, that we still have today when we think about the identity of Jesus. We're back to C.S. Lewis, you know, was this just was he just a delusional preacher? Was he evil? Was he just someone who was set out to manipulate people? Or what were his claims through his words and his actions that actually he really was and is God incarnated? Something very different. We continue to journey with Jesus towards Easter. These kind of thoughts and things and questions that we have about the identity of Jesus will become something which you look at even more. But this passage is clear that we are the ones who have to think that about Jesus. We have to decide what we think is really going on here. So that's this week's thought for the day, and there'll be another thought for the day on Sunday, and I'll see you all then. Okay, bye everybody.